Live from the Toyota Lounge here at the DNVR bar. Toyota Lounge driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. We are so pumped to be with you guys here this morning. Christian Saez joining you on the show today. We've got a lot to unpack, a lot going on around Major League Baseball, and a lot has happened since we last spoke. I believe it was 48 hours ago, something like that. The Rockies walked off in a 12-inning gritty win on Monday, an absolute blast of a game. And Kris Bryant came back into the lineup. That was pretty sweet to watch, or not, depending on which side of the line you fall on. And then pretty much a disaster of a game yesterday for the Rockies. Arguably the most boring game I've watched so far this season. I know a lot of the fans that were in attendance were kind of on the same page with that. But before we get started, I want to get a little bit of a vibe check here, because I brought up just a moment ago that Kris Bryant made his return to the lineup for the Rockies. He's been injured for the majority of this season, and really since he signed that 7-year, $182 million contract with the Rockies, has not really gone the way that he or Rockies fans have expected. And there were some mixed emotions yesterday at Coors Field. Kris Bryant, in his first at-bat, coming up and getting kind of a mix of boos and a few cheers. Mixed emotions, though, from Rockies fans. So I want to throw this out there before we start, because the show is going to be really unpacking a lot of things related to Kris Bryant. But are you happy to see Kris Bryant back? Do you think this is good for the team? Do you think there's still potential? Are you upset? I want to know. Drop me some information. Drop me a line in the Toyota chat. Let me know what you're thinking, because I think there's a lot of emotions around this as well, especially when you get a guy with a lot of money that your team is taking up. There's a lot to think about in regard to Kris Bryant. So we're going to unpack that as we get going. But before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great partners over at Indeed. And if you're a business that's looking to get into the hiring business, maybe that's, you're looking to expand your team, you're getting close to winter, and, you're wanting to kind of redo some of your formulas and get new employees invested into your company. Well, the best way to do that is through Indeed. Indeed is driven by the search for better. And when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need to hire with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to recent Indeed survey. And listeners to this show are going to get a special offer. That's $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed. Well, also, I know the weather is definitely heating up here. It's getting a little toasty out in Colorado, and one of the fun places that you can also go to get some warm weather in the summer is Vegas. And Vegas has some really cool opportunities as well to enjoy some nice resorts and some sports betting, some time out by the pool, all of the good summer amenities, and there's nowhere else you got to be other than Circa Resort and Casino. Check out Circa's Stadium Swim when you're out in Vegas to watch the best sports action during the summer. They've got some first-class amenities out there at Circa Sports and Casino, Circa Resort and Casino Vegas. They got their first ever adults-only casino resort, so that saves time. You don't have to be checking IDs the entire time you're out there. You get to just kind of hang out with a lot of other people your age, enjoying some good sports and some good time out in the sun. It's the world's largest sports book, so if you're into betting like we all are here at DNVR, they've got the world's largest sports book, a 3-story stadium-style sports betting experience, tons of VIP seating, Dugout Club, Legends Club, Champions Club, Circa Club Upper, and more. Their casino, 7,000 square foot casino with 2 levels. They've got everything going on out there. And, we talk about Vegas a couple times because the formerly known as Oakland A's, I guess they're still considered the Oakland A's. They're coming into Vegas in the next couple years, and they're going to be out there. And so they're going to have a new stadium that's in the process of being built out in Vegas. And I don't really know what the timeline is on that. I know they were hoping for I believe it was like a 2025 entrance. And that's kind of getting pushed around because a lot of the city of Las Vegas and Nevada's, kind of sitting there saying, I don't really know if we want to pay billions of dollars to build this in the middle of the city like that. So we might be looking at the Sacramento A's for a couple more years. But either way, when the A's do move to Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino is the place you want to be. They've got so many cool things out there. Experience Stadium Swim and watch your favorite teams over at Circa Resort and Casino. All right, I am joined here by the man himself, Big Drive Spence, making the trip down from Studio B as you just finished up your golf show, Big Drive Energy. First of all, thanks for being with us, man. You're kind of double dipping today.
Yeah, I love it. I love being on the camera. Well, I don't actually. I not love it. That's like a little conceited way of sounding it. But I do love talking Rockies, and want to say welcome to you, man. How have the first couple days been? How you enjoying? I personally, as a fan of the Rockies and a fan of DNVR, obviously. Enjoyed your coverage so far. You're tweeting. You're at the games. Like, I'm loving it so
Thanks,
far.
man.
So how's it been?
I mean, I can't complain about Monday. Monday's game was an absolute blast. 12 innings, a Tovar walk-off home run, just a gritty win. Last night, I think the Rockies decided to give me a real taste of what we as Rockies fans have seen a lot this season. But man, I'm excited. I mean, I grew up on the West Coast. Spent a lot of time rooting for teams in the NL West. Spent a little bit of time in Seattle where I was rooting for the Mariners. But, when I came to college out in Gunnison, in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, the Rockies kind of became my adopted team, and I have loved them ever since. My first year actually truly rooting for the Rockies was when they had their whole Rocktober year. So they gave me a taste of good Rockies baseball, and it's been kind of, I've been hoping to get back to that same level since then. And, I think the Rockies, they've got some ways to go, but man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, they are on the right track. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not fun right now, but they're at least have, in my mind, some sense of direction, which makes it feel a little bit better. Like, if you're just like cycling through the same shit and playing old vets and having guys lose their at-bats to guys that are never going to be part of the rebuild or part of the team that's going to be hopefully taking this city to Rocktober again. Yeah. And now they feel like they've kind of washed it out. I mean, we'll talk about some guys today that are impeding that a bit. But overall, they have a direction now, and they have players that are fun to cheer for. Let's put it that way.
Totally. And the direction part is, I think, what's the most interesting, because I think for a while, Rockies fans felt like there wasn't a clear direction. Like, where are we going with this team? Are we going to kind of lean more towards some of the veteran players, or are we going to make that transition into some of the younger talent? And I think it's become very clear that young talent is the future of the Rockies franchise. But like you said, there's this kind of dichotomy between, like, we still do have some veterans. You still have some guys that are playing on the team that aren't producing to the level that we were hoping for and that we're paying them to produce for. So where do we go from here? And that's where I want to kind of segue into this conversation with Kris Bryant, because Kris Bryant made his return to Coors Field yesterday for the first time, since I believe it was June 2nd was his last game with the Rockies when he got injured. And, Kris Bryant has really, since he signed that 7-year deal, has just been struggling. He's only played 146 games for the Rockies in 3 years out of 410 possible games. That's 35% of those 3 years that he's been playing for the Rockies. And I get it. Injuries, you can't control it. But when you're paying a guy 7 years, $182 million, that's going to piss a lot of people off. And Rockies fans are having a really hard time wrapping their head around paying that much money. I mean, it feels like the Russell Wilson contract for the Broncos where you're just like, dude, I get it. Life happens. You start to get older. Maybe your glory days are behind you, but you're getting paid an obscene amount of money. You've got to step up.
Especially, yes, exactly. And especially for a team that, like the Rockies, that don't just push the payroll like the Dodgers or the Yankees to the end of the earth. When they sign a guy for this amount of money over a long-term deal, it's like, wow, this guy has to be something for this team.
Yeah.
Like the Yankees can sign a Kris Bryant, get this kind of production. I mean, if they had signed him and he had given them what he's given us for 3 years, he'd be on the street somewhere.
Yeah.
But they have so much invested and so much of their small, the Rockies don't have as small of payroll as it feels like, or as people say. I think it's right in the middle of the MLB level. But for him to make as much money as he does, and not even when he plays not great. And then when he's hurt half the time, or even more than half the time, as you said, he's played 35% of the games.
Yep.
So he's hurt all the time. Then when he's in there, he's not as good, or not the Kris Bryant we paid for. But what really irked me off was the comments that he made about the team.
Yeah.
And I don't have an issue with a player of his overall career making a comment like that on the surface level. Like, yes, maybe you didn't do your research and you came to a team that paid you more money. But my biggest issue with that is the fact that he has not done anything to help the team be better. And he's basically dragging the whole organization through the mud when he's not helping.
Yeah.
He's part of that issue that he's not a prospect anymore, and he's mostly talking about the prospects. But like him saying the Rockies have an issue, when you saying that when you're part of the issue, just that sent me over the edge. Because when we signed him, I was excited.
Yeah.
And you do need vets, and you have a younger team. They've got the Charlie Blackmons, and I was hoping he'd be a guy that would kind of help these guys grow into an MLB career. The Tovars, the Doyles, Rogers is kind of that fringe vet / younger player now. Nolan Jones, guys like that need a guy like Kris Bryant or Charlie Blackmon, but come out and say that you play like shit, you play 2 games, you get hurt again. It's just a cycle of bad right now.
Well, and you're referencing those comments he made where he was talking about, how he didn't feel like he did enough research on the Rockies before, and how he didn't realize how bad the Rockies were, when he initially signed, and how he kind of rushed into the signing. Again, I understand all of that, but I go back to the comparison to Russell Wilson, because I think the difference is, and people are still pissed off at Russell Wilson, don't get me wrong, but I think the difference is Russell Wilson seemingly gave it 150% to make it work in Denver. Like, the dude wanted to be here in Denver, Colorado. He was pumped from the moment he got here. He, had his whole Broncos country, let's ride, slogan, he did his whole social media bit. He was 100% bought in to being a Denver Bronco, and it just didn't work out. Kris Bryant never felt like he bought in to the Rockies. He made the deal for the money. He was hoping that he would be able to continue to play, and obviously I'm not saying he wasn't hoping to have success, but it never felt like he was that Colorado was the place in his heart. And I think that's the hardest thing for Rockies fans, and why so many people have such an issue with Bryant right now is it's like he never bought in. And so when you are a true bought-in Rockies fan, you feel like he's an imposter. Get this, out of town or out of here. And that's what I think the vibe is for a lot of Rockies fans right now around Kris Bryant is you're spending a ton of money on a guy who doesn't want to be here in the first place.
100%. And, we actually, there's kind of some similarities to what we saw in spring training this year when Jake Cave got traded here.
Yeah.
He made some comments he didn't say it outright, just kind of Brian didn't say what we all know what he meant. But Jake Cave had the same scenario, and look how he's turned it around. Yeah. Jake Cave is the Nuggets show has the Mr. Nugget, and it's always a guy that's he's not your best player. It's not Jokic, but it's a guy that kind of holds the team together. Jake Cave has become that in being a Rocky since late spring training, so 4-ish months. he had the whole blow up when the umpire called the wrong play or what we think is the wrong swing. And now Jake Cave is like, everybody loves Jake Cave. And Jake Cave loves the Rockies. He loves the guys. Like, that mold of what Jake Cave has done the last 4 months is what we hoped Kris Bryant would do, along with elevated play from a player that was currently in the lineup, and we haven't seen that.
And to be fair, you have to be there for that too. Like, Kris Bryant's been injured, so he's not in the clubhouse all the time. He's not around the guys. Like, we were talking to him a little bit yesterday after the game and asking if he talked to Trevor Story, and he was saying, yeah, like, I didn't get the chance to talk to him. Every other Rockies player has talked to Trevor Story. Like Blackman had talked to Story. Even some of the younger guys like Doyle went out and met up with Story before the game. And so it's like those kind of things where I'm like, okay, Story was a big part of this team when you got signed, and then everyone went their separate ways, but you've got to be there in the clubhouse. And when you're doing rehab assignment after rehab assignment and you're on the injured list, like, you're not there and you're not able to do that. And I agree with you on the whole Jake Cave thing, because like, he was one of the most fun guys in the clubhouse these last couple days, and it was my first time in the clubhouse with the Rockies. And like, I mean, he's going around talking to people and going up to the media and talking. Like, he was a super chill, laid back guy. And so I agree. The vibe just doesn't seem there for Kris Bryant. But I don't know. I wanted to run this by you. I don't know if you saw this. There was a tweet. Brooksgate actually analyzed every player in Major League Baseball who currently makes $20 million a year or more. And they ranked them based off of FWAR, which is basically, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's Fangraph's calculation of wins above replacement. So, in simple terms, it tells you basically how many more wins your team is getting based on that one player. How many more wins that one player gets over their generic replacement player. So if you put some random average player in right field for Kris Bryant, how many more wins would Kris Bryant get you? And they ranked all these players who make $20 million a year or more. And there were 60 players. Kris Bryant ranked 57th out of 60 with an FWAR of negative 0.5. So technically, at least in that calculation, you're actually losing output by having Kris Bryant in the lineup based on runs, defensive output, all of those things. Guys like Bobby Witt Jr., Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, who are all making $20 million a year or more, their FWAR is over 6. So you're saying that them alone, Aaron Judge, is getting you 6 more wins a year based off his sole output. That's a crazy thing to think about when you look at how much you're paying a guy like Kris Bryant.
Do you have the whole list? Can you give me 58?
I think I do.
Can you give me 58 through 60 just to make me feel a little better?
Well, so actually, I was going to say that. So if you're looking just 58 through 60, it's interesting because you talk about former Cubs, 58 through 60, you've got Kris Bryant at 57, 58, Anthony Rizzo, and 59 is Javier Baez. I don't remember who it was who was 60, but you've got 3 former Cubs that are sitting there in that, making $20 million a year, but also in that low negative 0.5 FWAR category. So like, that kind of, if you're the Chicago Cubs, who, you're having some struggles of your own, but you kind of dodged some bullets there getting out of those contracts.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to basically winning the World Series and then recycle. In baseball is an interesting sport because of the contract length and how long players play. I feel like a lot of other sports also no salary cap helps in this, but a lot of other sports, once a team wins a championship, there's a lot of changes that are made. A lot of the times, in football right now, it's different because Patrick Mahomes is just that good, as frustrating as it is. But you win a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback or a quarterback on a rookie deal, then you have to pay him, then you lose 5 or 6 other players because you're paying him so much. In baseball, when you win a World Series, you can just re-up with the same dudes if your ownership's willing to pay it. There's not as much of that turnover. That 2016 Cubs team is completely different than it is now, and all of those dudes are quiet quitting in the MLB.
Literally, yeah. That's how it feels. So I want to transition into like, where do we go from here? Because Kris Bryant hit in his first game back yesterday, 0 for 3 with a walk. He did have a nice little, diving catch in the outfield in like pretty much one of the first at-bats of the game, where I think everyone kind of had a moment in Coors Field of like, oh my God, is he really going to, dive on his first play in the outfield? And he did. He made a good catch. But where do we go from here? So, I wanted to use this as an example because Marissa, she'll always tell me after a show, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you want me to tell you the truth? Like, do you want me to tell you how shitty you were, or do you want me to tell you, like what you want to hear? And so I think that's where we are with the Rockies, like with Kris Bryant. Like, I think what fans want to hear is, oh, Kris Bryant sucks. Get him out of here. Cut him. Send him away. But the truth is, you were paying him a ton of money, and there is the potential for output. I mean, I know it's a different context, but he did have some success in his rehab assignment in New Mexico, going up against some big leaguers for the Giants who were also rehabbing as well. I think there's still potential there. I mean, Kris Bryant's, I wouldn't say he's at a point where it's like all is lost, but the truth is the Rockies are going to play him. So as Rockies fans, we have to be in a place where how can you get the most out of Kris Bryant and where he's at right now for the Rockies? And I think, to me, there's two factors involved. One, it's obviously you hope that he can show up and have some decent output, at least be an average piece from an output standpoint for the Rockies. But then the other side of that is you've got to be the veteran, and if you're management and ownership, you've got to find ways to help Kris Bryant become the veteran voice for these young guys that are the future of your team. Because Kris Bryant, unfortunately, isn't the future of the Rockies franchise, but the Doyles, the Tovars, the Tolias, these guys are. So, find a way to get Kris Bryant involved in the locker room to a way that he can help bring some of these young guys up. That's the truth, and I think the best case scenario for where we're at right now. And I don't think all is lost with Kris Bryant. I think we're in a bad situation, but all isn't lost yet. We just have to find a way to shape the rest of his years with the Colorado Rockies.
Exactly. And for me, right in this moment right now, I actually almost fired off a pretty bad tweet from the Rockies game last night. I was going to say I capitalized K in Kris Bryant, and I was like, I'm glad K, and I did 3 of them, which is not ideal. So I added a
I'm glad
fourth.
You adjusted that.
I added a 4th to that. Like, he didn't strike out 4 times, but I wanted to make
But his walk was
point.
really close.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that pitch was on the very corner of the plate.
Yeah, exactly. But I really should have tweeted the capital K Kris and then BB Bryant. He's either walking or striking out, it feels like. But right now, I'm actually not as annoyed with him playing in, like, let's take this moment, July, whatever, 24th or whatever it is, because Nolan Jones isn't on the roster right now. He's hurt. So he's not taking valuable at-bats from guys that I think, like, don't get me wrong, I love Sam Hilliard. Huge home run Monday night.
Huge.
He's not a guy that's going to be, like, a factor. Like, I feel like the Rockies just signed him because they needed outfielders. They've had some familiarity with him. I mean, he's a career probably 230 hitter, and that may be generous. Like, Sam Hilliard's a decent piece, but not a guy that I anticipate being something of the future. And then Hunter Goodman, he can play kind of everywhere, catcher, outfield. But, like, Brenton Doyle's getting his at-bats right now. Kris Bryant is not taking away from a guy that he's not starting over a guy that I wish had at-bats.
Yeah.
That could, once Jones gets healthy, a couple other guys, maybe some call-ups later in the year, guys that you want to see. If he's taking those at-bats, I'm a little more annoyed. But right now, with him taking, Jake Cave started in left field last night. Jake Cave and Kris Bryant are kind of the same thing to me. One of them cares more about the Rockies and feel like plays a little harder.
Yeah.
But he's not taking at-bats from guys that are, you need to figure out what they are or figure out if they're going to be part of the team going forward. That will change as guys get healthy. But this moment right now, I'm like, whatever, give him some at-bats. Maybe something happens.
Well, actually, I was talking to Bud Black before the game yesterday about that. And if we've got that clip pulled up, Alyssa, we asked him, what is Kris Bryant's output going to look like with the Rockies? How is he going to kind of blend in, between Tolia, who's been doing well, Charlie Blackmon, and then, Bryant. And so take a look at what Bud Black had to say about that.
I think the flexibility is the key, right? And we're able to move KB from right to first to DH, right? And then Charlie's in that mix too. And, Tolia, you're right. He's playing a really great defensive first base. Saved us a bunch of runs, which is so important. And like you said, he's hitting some homers, and he's got to up his average and up his on base. To be really the complete offensive player that we want. But he's showing signs of that. So with KB and where we are in the season with a couple of guys, days off are needed. We're getting the dog days here. And, you know, getting KB back into the mix after 2 months off, it's not going to be an everyday. So there's flexibility there.
So a big word there, flexibility, as they look to incorporate Kris Bryant into the lineup. Obviously not the start that he wanted yesterday, 0 for 3 with a walk and a bit of a tough outing for him. But you know what's also been kind of tough when you've been going out to the games these last few days? It's been that like smoke. It's been super hazy, really hot, really muggy. And I was at Coors Field a couple days ago and, you know, walking up to the rooftop before the game. And I get up there and I'm like drenched in sweat. I'm just winded, feeling gross. And I did not realize that the rooftop had $3 beer before first pitch. Like, that was news to me. And not only was it $3 beer, but it was the best kind of beer you can get at a Rockies game. It was Coors Light. And, you know, so if I wanted in that moment to chill out a little bit, Coors was the way to go. Coors Light was the best way. A cold, refreshing Coors Light is always a great combination when you're out at Coors Field, and they had me covered up there at the rooftop bar up at Coors Field. But it doesn't matter if you're at Coors Field or, you know, at home, out on a picnic, wherever you are. If you want to just chill out a little bit, Coors Light is the way to go. It's the best light beer you can get at the Rockies game. So if you want to make the choice to chill, you've got to go with a cold, refreshing Coors Light. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado, right here in our home state of Colorado. And also our friends over at Game Time. You know, how cool is it when you get to go watch baseball for pretty much pocket change? I mean, like, I've talked to you know, some friends about this. I used to go in high school. You know, when I was living in Seattle, we would get off of school and we'd be kind of trying to figure out what we wanted to do with the rest of the day. And I'd be like, dude, I got $5 in my pocket. Let's get on the light rail and go watch a Mariners game for $5. And that was in high school. The shocking thing is you can still do that today. And with Game Time, it's even easier. You can get cheap tickets right to your phone. Last minute deals. You can save up to 60% buying last minute sports, concerts, comedy, whatever you want. Rockies tickets. It literally just the change in your pocket, you know, on your phone. If someone sends you a quick little Venmo for like $5, you know, if you choose to kind of forego your coffee one day and say, I've just got a little bit of extra money. Game Time is the place to get that. They've got zone deals, all-in pricing. You know, they've got seat view so you can see where you want to sit. Lowest price guarantee. Game Time's going to be crediting you 110% of the difference with their lowest price guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an MLB account, and use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, speaking of going to the games, man, you said you were at the game yesterday, which is unfortunate because out of the 2 games you could have gone to at this Red Sox series, that was the worst one. But I kind of felt like I was in enemy territory, you know. And anytime you get a team coming in from out of town, you know, I mean, this is only the 5th time the Rockies and the Red Sox have ever played at Coors Field. You know that Red Sox fans, they travel pretty well. And, I mean, it's been a sea of red at Coors Field, unfortunately.
Yeah, it has. And ironically, going back to your reads real quick, I used Game Time last night to get my tickets to the Rockies game.
Nice.
Did a zone deal, only paid like $22 a seat to get in, which is pretty insane. It's normally a lot cheaper, but Red Sox games, obviously, there was some high demand.
Sure.
And had 2 Coors Lights at the game. So it's
you're doing the whole package,
you're doing
man.
those back-to-back reads. I was like, yeah, this is literally my Tuesday night last night.
Literally,
Game
nice.
Time, and then and the cool thing, Game Time actually, they give you your tickets right on the app now. They used to be like submit them to your ballpark, and like I'm not gonna lie, that shit sucked. Like you have to log in, get the tickets, but now Game Time they straight up do the tickets right to your phone. So I was super easy to get in. But yes, Red Sox fans were everywhere, and the thing I think. At least the Red Sox have a rich history of baseball, like not necessarily winning baseball. We knew until they beat the Rockies. I think that makes it hurt a little more. Like I was talking with RK yesterday. I went to the game with him, and I was like, imagine how much different this would feel even like losing that game if we would have beat them in the 07 World Series.
Oh my
I would have
God,
felt so much better about my life last night.
Or even just like,
and that was 16 years ago.
Or even just like made a valiant effort, you know? I mean, to get swept, no less, in the 07 World Series is just brutal.
Yeah, but Red Sox fans, they were everywhere. I couldn't tell, mostly just Red Sox cheering last night, but I went to get a beer, wasn't in my seat, couldn't tell whether or not, when something happened and there was a cheer, I was like, did the Rockies do something good? Did the Red Sox do something good?
I mean, seconds into first pitch on Monday, we had a "Let's Go Red Sox" chant like ringing out right below us in the press box. And you're right. I mean, it was pretty much 50-50. You'd have, a home run by Mr. Biceps, Tyler O'Neill, and it would sound like it would sound like a home game for the Red Sox. And it was pissing me off, though, because I'm sitting there like, what are we doing? The first time I ever went to a Nuggets game in Denver was a Nuggets-Boston Celtics game. Yep. And it was the same damn thing. Yep. Like, I felt like I was at a Boston Celtics game, and I'm like, this is my first game over at Ball Arena, and there's more green than there is blue. So I threw up the poll, and I have a screenshot of it here to show you the results about, like, what's the most annoying fan base? And I want to phrase this in two ways. First of all, from baseball, what's the most annoying fan base that you could see filling up the stands at a Rockies game? The options I chose, just because, Twitter limits us to only 4. It was Dodgers fans, Red Sox fans, because they were there, Yankees fans, and then other. Got a lot of comments saying Cubs fans are up there, Phillies fans. I would have actually put Astros in there too, just because you got a ton of people from Texas in Colorado. I haven't been to an Astros game, at Coors Field, but I would imagine that that's probably a really annoying fan base to have. But lo and behold, no surprise, Dodgers take the cake. 70%. People just hate having Dodgers fans at any ballpark unless it's Dodger Stadium.
100%. Yeah, it's not. And they've given it there's so much agony with losing game one. Well, it wasn't 163, but it was basically game 163, not the one that Rockies fans think of, but losing to the Dodgers when we could have won our first division title. There's so many moments now. Obviously, the teams are on very different trajectories as of this moment, but the past 10 to 15 years, the Rockies were winning, had a chance to make the playoffs a few different seasons, and then Dodgers just wrecked it. And so Dodgers fans are not only, they're just annoying from the standpoint of like it's the LA, it's like the old school. It's like, all right, like the Rockies are still new and young. Like we're the little brother to them. And it's, they definitely let you hear about it too.
Well, it was funny actually yesterday. The one thing that the crowd truly agreed on at any point in the game was there was a couple Yankees suck chants that came out at random points. So I'm like, who's the dude that started that chant that's just sitting there like, you know what? It's 6-0 Red Sox. Let's just start hating on the Yankees. And everyone around him is like, sure, we'll do that. Yeah, I don't. Rockies fans, Red Sox fans will unite to hate the Yankees. I feel like the same thing for the Dodgers. And because the Dodgers spend like $50 billion a year in spending, and no other teams feel like they can even come close to that. And they pretty much dominate this division, and their fans, for lack of a better way of putting it, their fans are total assholes. Like, they're so easy to hate. Like, how do you not, unless you are a Dodger fan, even if you have no rivalry with the Dodgers whatsoever. And I grew up my whole family's diehard Giants fans. Like I said, I grew up, in the NL West. Like I grew up, kind of going to Giants games. And so I have a hatred of the Dodgers that stems back from when I was a child. Like we have a picture of, on my old desktop of this little like 4-year-old flipping off the Dodgers dugout, in wearing Giant stuff. And it's like, that's the mindset that I was raised. And so I'm so glad that the Rockies fans are in agreement on that as well. Like the Dodgers suck, man. Like, and also it sucks because they're really good, but fuck the Dodgers. Like,
yes.
can we all just be in agreement on that?
100%. And this may not resonate as true for you because you're from kind of that area or that West Coast area. But for me, as a Colorado kid that grew up here, there's always whether or not you like sports or not, there's always the California-Colorado rivalry of what state is better. And so sure. I always hear from Dodgers fans just like, oh, California's so great. Well, fucking newsflash, it's not. Well, California sucks. I love Colorado. I love the Rockies. So that adds a little layer of my annoyance with Dodgers fans is they're that California like whatever.
Yeah, well, and that's why I felt like Texas, like for the Astros, like I said, I know the Astros don't play at Coors Field like ever, but when they do, there's so many people from Texas that live in Colorado, and that's such a thing, like if you're from Colorado, you have that either like we hate people from California and we hate people from Texas. Like both those people don't come into our state, like everyone else, like you're welcome here, but California and Texas, like no, you can stay where you are. And then the Astros cheated. They're also they're like the Dodgers. They're really freaking good. Newsflash, they just pretty much eliminated the Seattle Mariners in the last couple games, and the Angels too. I mean, that's been a mess over there in the American League. But yeah, so I'm glad we kind of all rock that same feeling. The Cubs though are up there in a hated fan base here in Colorado. I got a lot of Cub hate that we were seeing on the comments, and maybe that's just because I'm not originally from Colorado, but like. There's some history there for Rockies fans and Cubs.
Yeah, and we actually that's one of the sides of history that the Rockies fans are on the right side of. We beat them in a wild card game to make the playoffs. But I think the Cub hate is more of like, it felt bad last night. Obviously, there was a lot of Red Sox fans there. But I think if I had to guess, and maybe it's due to the less amount of games they play here compared to like even the Dodgers, let's say, the Cubs fans are the most popular in terms of when a game is at Coors Field. The opposing fan base that I would say, if you could look up the tickets and ask every person, Cubs fan, Rockies fan, X fan, like Cubs would be the most like they fill up that whole third base section. They fill up most of the outfield. And the Cubs growing up, I used to go to spring training every year and watch a lot of Cubs games because that's where we ended up staying in Arizona. And they were always known as the lovable losers. So teams like that their fan bases don't annoy me as much. Now, when you spoke on the Astros, to me, there's going to be fans that have been fans of the Astros their whole lives, but the Astros and the Warriors have a very similar trajectory to me in both sports, baseball and basketball, because 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, 15 years ago, Astros were terrible. There's no Astros fans. Then they start winning. Now everybody's an Astros fan. Same with the Warriors. You had your few, I'm a Lakers fan, I'm a Clippers fan, whatever. And now the Warriors turn into a dynasty. Oh, I'm a Warriors fan. You got Warriors fans. You got kids that are like Steph Curry fans. So those, I think they have that same trajectory for me as like, you didn't care about the Astros before they started winning World Series, and that's a fact. So that annoys me. Whether it's like if you've been an Astros fan your whole life and you're from Texas, I give you a little more respect. But if you're like, I like the Astros when they started winning World Series, and you can miss me with that.
Yeah, I think the cheating thing, definitely soured the taste of anyone else that's not an Astros fan. But speaking of the Warriors, that was the other question I was going to ask. Was okay, so we've kind of determined the Dodgers are the most hated baseball fan base to see at Coors Field. But let's look like big picture. What do you think is the most annoying fan base to see in all of Colorado sports? If you're going to a Nuggets game, is it the Celtics fans? Is it the Raiders fans? Is it Dodgers fans? Like, who takes the cake of foreign fans showing up to Denver sports games?
Oh, damn. So, okay, basketball, it's the Lakers for me, for sure.
Yep.
And then ironically, so it's Lakers, Dodgers, and then I think the one that takes the cake for me over all of them is the Oakland Raiders, or now the Las Vegas Raiders. Because that franchise is so sorry, and granted, the Broncos are not sorry right now. Like,
it's a different version.
I don't know what they are, but the Raiders fans show up like they're the best team in the world, and they're not. Like, I never get as mad at a fan base when they're just beating the shit out of the Broncos, and the Raiders have been doing that. So I can't really defend myself these last 5 years. But like even before that, the Raiders have not won a playoff game since I think 2000 or something like that. It's been forever. And every year their fans are like, "Oh, Raider Nation, they're showing up in all this black and silver." They're, and they lose their own team,
and they're ready to fight you.
Yeah,
on all of it.
100%.
They will fight you.
They lose their own team to a different city, and they're still just like, I can't stand the teams that are bad that talk like they're good or act like they're just walking around like, "Oh, we're the Raiders, we're so good." Yeah. Raiders, I think, is the number one. And then let's see what's hockey. Hockey, it's Red Wings, but it's kind of lost its luster with the teams moving into different conferences. But I'd have to power rank it. I'd say Raiders is number one. Lakers is number 2, and then Dodgers is number 3, and they're all ironically from the same Bay Area.
Yeah, literally.
Just that whole same one little pocket that I can't
those
stand.
warm places, dude. You know, it's a tough place. But yeah, no, I agree. I actually totally agree with you. I would probably switch Raiders just personally, just because I have more history between like hating the Lakers and then hating the Dodgers and that kind of stuff. But the Raiders are very much up there. I feel like the Celtics have kind of, because they've been so good for so long, and with the Nuggets kind of, I think for a while the Celtics were always just like, they were kind of out of our league for a while, and then the Nuggets became good, and now it's like, we need to kind of hate each other. The Celtics have kind of risen in the ranks a little bit, but it's just so unfortunate that you living in a place as beautiful as Colorado, where people, God forbid, they want to come enjoy Denver like we do, and they got to bring their team, and their fan base with them. But it helps when you've got teams like the Avs and the Nuggets and the Broncos in the past, and even the Rockies in the past at some points, that have beaten these teams. There is no better feeling when you just shut up a fan base. And the Red Sox the other night, when their fans were like on their feet for the last like 3 innings of the game, 9, 10, and 11, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and the Rockies ended up getting the win out of that, and God, that felt good.
Yeah, those moments right there are what we live for this season, and the seasons as we rebuild and as we know we're out of it, we're not going to make a wild card, we're not going to make the playoffs, but those moments right there are just what make it worth it. And I have a good buddy who's a diehard Rockies fan. Me and him talk. We have a group chat, my brother, him, and myself, and Mitchell. My brother's out on the Rockies completely, but we always talk about the Rockies just so he can see it and just kind of annoy him.
Keep up with it.
And he was at the game Monday night, and he was sitting in the Red Sox family section, so he had a whale of a time. He's like, wow, you would have missed being here, because just the banter back and forth was so good. And then the fact the Rockies actually won. But he said after the 2-run, was it top of the 10th or the 11th, when the Red Sox scored 2 runs, made it 7-5.
That was the 10th.
Those guys were basically like letting my buddy have it.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
over. It doesn't matter, because he was cheering about the Doyle catch.
Yes.
And the guys are like, oh, it's over. It doesn't matter anyways. And then Hilliard hits a bomb. So like those are the games that make sports, even being in the valley we're in as Rockies fans right now, worth watching and fun.
It pleases me to no extent that Red Sox fans had to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch that game and to watch a loss.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was actually really funny, though, I was looking down from the press box, because especially with the way Major League Baseball has sped up games, you don't see games that are going 4 hours. This game was like 3 hours and 52 minutes. And it was funny because you see like right in front of both dugouts, there's just piles of seeds littering. You see that at every game, but it was, when you get 4 hours of baseball, these seeds are just scattered everywhere. And speaking of sunflower seeds, our friends over at Chinook's Seedery, hopefully those players were hitting those guys up, because that is the best seeds on the market. No sandpaper tongue, no salty burn. You're chewing on seeds for 4 straight hours. I can't imagine what like typical seeds would do to your mouth. You would be chewing on concrete by the end of that, but not with Chinook seeds. Like I said, you don't get that salt burn in your mouth. You can eat their seeds all day long without tearing up your mouth. They've got tons of really cool flavors: original lemon pepper, jalapeno ranch to spice things up a little bit, Parmesan pepper, cinnamon toast, dill pickle, hatch green chili. I mentioned that on my last show. That would be my staple if I was out there on the field as well. Smokehouse barbecue. So many good choices. And one of the other cool things, I was in the dugout for the first time yesterday, and the seed stations they have out there, they have so many varieties, and to be able to have that many choices, I just listed them all off from Chinook Seedery. So many cool things, so many good flavors. You could do one flavor per inning. You could get creative. So, if you want to get some really good premium sunflower seeds, Chinook Seedery is the way to go. Head over to ChinookSeedery.com and use code Rockies for 20% off on your order. They are literally the best seeds ever. And speaking of best ever, got to talk about the GOAT of all cars. That is Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. And when I talk about Toyota, I have some personal experience with Toyota, because sitting out back in our parking lot behind here, probably illegally parked, to be completely honest with you, is my 2007 Toyota Highlander that has 250,000 miles and has not had a single issue. It is getting me from point A to point B over mountains. I get out to all my fishing areas with it. I have not had a single problem with it. It is so reliable. And that's a 2007 Toyota Highlander. Talk about all the new Toyotas that are coming up. I know you have a new Toyota as well. I mean, has your truck been as reliable as my 2007 has?
It's been incredible, and ironically, I get it back today, not because of any mechanical issues. I got rear-ended on Colorado.
There's some dumbasses driving out on the road.
Exactly. So I finally get my Tacoma back today, and I am so excited. I've been driving random cars, rental cars, all this shit for the last 3-4 weeks. They told me the part wasn't going to be till October. Now they're fixing it. So I get my Tacoma back today, and I've never had one issue with it. I've had it for 3 years. It's 2019 and never had one issue.
Yeah, well, and they've got so much variety. 17 models are available with all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the 4Runner, the Tacoma, the Highlander, the RAV4, which is one of my personal new favorites. That is the car that I think I'm next in line to get. If I can convince Marissa to let me be the one to get the car next, then I think the RAV4 is a good bet. But I mean, I like going off-roading too, and getting out. I love camping, fishing. If I'm not at a baseball game, I am out somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, probably Taylor Reservoir, trying to see if I can find Charlie Blackmon out on the streams to go hit him up to do some fly fishing. But Toyota is the vehicle that's going to be what gets me there. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation, Toyota Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, that's my neck of the woods, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. And Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR and the Colorado Rockies. And also you'll see plenty of Toyota cars littered around Coors Field if you're out there as well. So you can check out some of those vehicles for yourself if you go out to a Rockies game. And the Rockies are playing today. I am literally going from here to the game. They've got a 1:10 early matinee out at Coors Field. They wrap up their series against the Red Sox. But I want to kind of recap a little bit the last two games. We've kind of glossed over it, but yesterday, I'm not going to say anything else about it because that game was meaningless. It was a hangover game. Bud Black, I did ask him after the game, hey man, is that 12-inning game on Monday, did that play into the energy or lack of energy that came into the game today or yesterday? And he said no. He credited starting pitching as the main factor. Ty Block was just not in his groove, gave up 6 runs. I will say, if there's anything I am going to say about yesterday's game, the relievers came out and pitched well yesterday. I mean, it was uneventful, and that's a good thing if you're the Rockies relievers.
Exactly. Good to see Noah Davis back.
Yep.
He looked solid towards the end of the game. The one thing I don't want to talk about, but maybe we should touch on, is the reason that Ty Block started was German Marquez, and that was not a good notification to get on my phone.
Yep, German Marquez back on the injured list. At least for 15 days, kind of re-aggravated some previous injuries in his elbow. And Bud Black talked to him a little bit about that before the game as well. And he had said, in a guy that had Tommy John, in his words, this wasn't related to the Tommy John. It was actually something different in his elbow.
That's good to hear.
So that is good to hear for German Marquez. Hopefully it's not going to be as long of a kind of side of a detour for him. But also, like you said, I mean, that's just such an unfortunate thing when pitching is the route to the future for the Rockies, or at least their biggest opportunity for growth. To see a guy like him get pulled out and then Ty Block kind of having to come in on a moment's notice after having to sit through a 12-inning game the night before, whether Bud Black says that had anything to do with it or not, I mean, that can't help. And to be completely honest, the Red Sox, I mean, dude, they were smoking the ball in that first 2 innings.
The one O'Neill hit way over my head, and I was sitting in left field, and it flew over.
That ball felt like it went 500 feet. And I have never seen Tyler O'Neill in person until I went out there on the field. You see him on on the TV, and you say, okay, like he's a big dude, but like seeing him in person, that dude's biceps are bigger than my quads. Like and I don't know if you knew this about Tyler O'Neill. I have a picture of Tyler O'Neill actually that I sent Alyssa before the show. It's the one of just, there he is. I mean, like, that's insane. Dude's jacked, absolutely jacked. But I don't know if you knew this. His dad, Terry O'Neill, was named Mr. Canada as a bodybuilder. He was a bodybuilder with Arnold Schwarzenegger. We got a picture of him and Schwarzenegger here. So on the left, that's obviously Arnold, and then that's Tyler O'Neill's dad.
That makes
on
sense.
the right. Dude's jacked. I mean, so I don't know if Terry O'Neill played baseball. I don't know what led Tyler O'Neill to get into baseball. You feel like if you know, baseball isn't the sport that you see guys looking like that very often, but Tyler O'Neill can absolutely swing the bat. He's a stud.
2 homers, correct? Like
He had 2 homers.
Basically, once Block couldn't get out of the first, or he had 1 out to get, that ball just barely goes over. Like he gave up the 1 run, which is, first inning run. Obviously at Coors Field, you anticipate being able to overcome that deficit, which ironically last night we didn't score at all, so we couldn't. But once that ball flew over the fence, you're like, oh, okay, it kind of signifies that there's going to be. And Jaron Duran, man, that guy's insane.
Talk about studs, man. He's so fast, so fun to watch. I will say, when you get teams like the Red Sox, like the Astros, teams that you don't see a lot, even the Mariners, coming into town, a lot of American League teams, where you don't see these guys play at Coors Field a lot. Obviously, you're still rooting for the Rockies, but when you get games where you see guys that you don't get to see very often at Coors Field that play at the level of Duran and O'Neill, and if you're going beyond, you get guys like Julio Rodriguez and just guys that are so fun to watch. It's so cool to see them just strictly as a baseball fan, to get to watch a guy like Tyler O'Neill hit a ball 450 feet over the concourse. And just to see those kind of things happen. Obviously, you wish it, you can have games like Monday where you get the 12-inning win and still get to watch a really fun game. But so much fun to watch some good baseball. And
is Rafael Devers okay?
I believe so. I haven't heard otherwise.
Okay, yeah, because when he came out, I was like, oh, that's
he did go down on that base hit, and he looked a little shaken up. Cora kind of went through his post-game press conference afterwards. Didn't seem like there was any serious updates on Devers. But, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see today. I mean, we'll find out here shortly. But, going back to that Monday game, though, Tovar continuing to swing the bat well for the Rockies. And, he had another walk-off. That was his 11th 3-game hit that it leads the National League with 3 hit games. With 11 3-hit games, he leads the National League with that plus the walk-off. Blackmon is tied for 5th in the all-time Rockies franchise with 131 home runs, tied with Vinny Castilla, had a home run there. Doyle and Tolia have just been smoking the baseball, 10 home runs combined since June 22nd, tied for the most in the majors. The Rockies, when they get hot, they're swinging the bat well right now.
Tolia's electric because it's either a home run, he's hitting 199, but he is a prototypical, which the Rockies haven't had a ton of these, I feel like, because they're not like, when you're a competing team, you're going to have this in the new age of baseball, if you will. But he's the prototypical new age player where, like I mentioned, my brother's kind of out on the Rockies. He sees like an average, like he hasn't watched baseball in like 3 or 4 years. He sees an average of like 230. He's like, oh, he's terrible. Yeah. And it's not like that anymore. Like 230, if you hit enough bombs and drive in enough runs, is a decent average. Like it's not about your average anymore. And just seeing a guy like Tolia getting his at bats, hitting under 200, but still just producing what you need. Like you have a power hitting first baseman, hit some bombs and strike out a million times. That's kind of baseball. Look
at that entire Yankees roster, man. That whole roster is dudes that strike out 5 out of 6 times, and that 6th time is a home run that goes 700 feet. Like that is baseball, and that is fun baseball today. Bud Black did say, they're working on getting Tolia's average up, but he's young. I mean, when Marissa and I were covering the Spokane Indians just a couple years ago, Tolia was with the Spokane Indians, and I always tell the story about how he hit 2 grand slams in a promotion game, and he won 2 fans $5,000 on both grand slams. There was a promotion at the game of if you hit a grand slam, if a player hits a grand slam, they give $5,000, whatever company gives $5,000, and he hit 2 of them. And so the company's sitting there like, God damn it, dude, stop hitting grand slams. And Tolia is just he's an absolute monster. So he's a lot of fun to watch. It was cool to see Hilliard get out there and smoke the ball on Monday. The Rockies need to bounce back, though, with some good offense today against the Red Sox. They wrap up their series at home against the Red Sox today, and then they go on the road until August. I think August 6th is when they return. So they go to take on some division rivals, the Dodgers, the Giants. They head on to take on the Phillies, I believe. So they're going to be bouncing around a bunch. But I wanted to quickly jump around Major League Baseball right now, looking at some of the big other news stories in Major League Baseball. And I think the one that stands out the most to me, Paul Skeens, I don't know if you saw, got his first official loss with the Pirates through 8 scoreless innings, and in the 9th gave up the unfortunate loss. So, I mean, Livy might as well dump his ass at this point. I mean, like, he sucks. Yeah, he's done. Like, what can you not say about Paul Skeens? Dude goes from being drafted first overall to, winning the national championship at LSU, getting drafted first overall, getting called up, throwing unbelievable. I mean, could have almost had a no-hitter if he didn't get tugged in the other game the other day. Goes in as the starting pitcher for the All-Star game. I mean, what can't you say about Paul Skeens right now? It's good that, they humbled him a little bit, got him his first loss on the year. So Pittsburgh, loving to have him on the lineup. The A's also are insane right now. The A's are beating some crazy good teams. I put out a tweet yesterday that saying, the A's are going to beat every single good team in Major League Baseball in front of all 15 of their fans. But I can't tell you how pumped I am as someone who my whole family is from the Sacramento area, and the A's are moving to Sacramento next year. Like, how cool is it going to be to see, like, professional baseball being played at a tiny minor league field? Like, how cool is that going to be to watch some baseball at some small little Sacramento ballpark in minor league baseball?
Dude, I love that the whole concept, there's some expansion teams coming. I love the concept of teams going to places where, yes, there's the whole boycott and there's all these other things, but like, if I was an A's player, they're going to go to packed stadiums now.
Yeah.
Like, whether the stadium's smaller or not is kind of irrelevant, but the idea that, like, they're going to a place that cares about the sport, and those people don't have that now. So and I think, like, you always want to expand to big places, and Vegas will probably be successful at some point, but, like, I always think of when the NBA went to Oklahoma City. What else is in Oklahoma City? You got people that don't like basketball, liking basketball, and that stadium is always packed. You grew up, now it's growing, but like the Seattle area, when you just had the Mariners and just had the Seahawks, like there's a care for those teams, whether they're good, whether they're bad. It's like, it's on a different level, where Denver, as much as I love Denver, it's kind of watered down at this point. Like the Broncos, you got all these teams, like nobody cares about the Rockies right now, or very, like when they're good, then everybody jumps on the bandwagon. Sure. But when you have like the Portland Trailblazers, there's no other professional sports in Portland other than soccer, none of the major four. So those places like really get up for those teams. And I'm excited for the guys on the A's to go play. It's going to be a cool setup. They're going to have a lot more fans, even at a smaller stadium than they do now. And you're not playing in this weird Coliseum, empty, eerie feeling. Like
the cement brick.
Is this a high school game, or is this a professional MLB game that I'm making millions?
And people are going to go to those games to watch other teams too. I mean, if you're living in Sacramento, okay, cool, you get to see the A's for a few games, but you're going to be going when they play the Giants, who, a lot of those Sacramento fans are Giants fans, or if they play a team that's from out of state. It's going to be just really cool. I mean, can you imagine going and watching the Dodgers play and watching Shohei Ohtani play at it used to be called Rayleigh Field. That's where I grew up, when I was going to those games, but I don't know what it's called now. But that little AAA stadium, like, that's so much fun. So shout out to the A's for, going through this big transition and doing it with their heads up, because they're beating some pretty good teams. Mike Trout got called out. It was his first game back, and within 2 innings, he was brought out of the game for the Angels the other day or yesterday. So a couple other things to keep an eye on around Major League Baseball, but that's going to do it for our time here as we're wrapping up quick. I can see that clock ticking down. So we are going to wrap up everything, though. We're heading out to the game after this, 1:10. Follow us on Twitter at DNVR_Rockies, or myself at CJJ Saez. Big Drive Spence over here. Big Drive Spencer to my right. Thanks for joining us on the show, man. It's always a pleasure to have you. I'm hoping to do some more shows with you in the future and hopefully get some more good stuff to talk about with the Rocks.
Absolutely. Always willing to talk some Rockies baseball.
Good stuff. Well, from myself, Christian Sias, Spencer, our crew, producer, Alyssa, and all the family here at DNVR, thanks so much for tuning in. Stick with us on Twitter and social media as we give you more Rockies coverage throughout the rest of the week. And have a good weekend, everyone.
We all silly like the mayor.